It frequently feels as though Resident Evil: The Umbrella Chronicles was created specifically for fans of the franchise who wanted a more in-depth look at what goes on behind the scenes. The game spans multiple entries in the series and provides an updated take at Resident Evil's events from a distinct perspective that fans haven't seen in years. Fortunately, this game allows players to play alone or with a companion through a variety of scenarios. It might be challenging and frightening at times, but it can be a lot of fun to do with a friend. If it hadn't been included in the Nintendo Switch Online Nintendo 64 expansion, a game like Sin and Punishment might have gone overlooked in today's gaming world. Fortunately, fans of the rail shooter genre who missed it now get the chance to play the thrilling action-packed game. The rather unique control method is what makes this game so enjoyable. You control your character rather than seeing through their eyes as they run across the battlefield. You can't just defeat your opponents, you must also avoid their strikes. The Time Crisis series was a popular rail shooter toward the conclusion of the arcade craze. While fans of the franchise may have a favorite entry, many consider Time Crisis 2 to be one of the best cooperative experiences anybody could have. Time Crisis 2 was, believe it or not, the game that first introduced co-op to the series. The addition of a second player gave the rail shooter genre an altogether new dynamic, resulting in plenty of fun and chaos in arcades at the time. Many people enjoyed the first Virtua Cop game, but the sequel, in many people's opinion, outperformed the first. Rather than having the same straightforward experience every time, players might, to some extent, choose their own paths through the game. It's not the longest game in the genre, but it's a lot of fun to play again and again. To this day, the fun and unusual mechanics on offer make it enjoyable to try out. It's always satisfying to be able to land a justice shot and disarm one of the game's opponents. Many people believe that Time Crisis established a standard for what a rail shooter game should be. It's true that the game is simple by today's standards, but it's easy to forget that Time Crisis was a game that was deemed innovative at the time. While this game was released amid the peak of the rail shooter genre, it had a unique feature that set it apart from the pack: the ability to duck away from the action to avoid damage and reload. If they were in various rail shooter situations, anyone would do this. It's no surprise that the horror genre merged with the rail shooter genre quite fast. Throwing swarms of undead at a player who has no real control over their movement is one of the best ways to create a truly heart-racing experience. The fact that it was a part of the movement that popularized the zombie genre is one of the factors that makes it truly excellent. It's also probable that this game provided the inspiration for today's popular quicker zombies. The Panzer Dragoon series was missed by a large number of people. The original game was launched in 1995 for the Sega Saturn, a device that many gamers were unaware of. Those who picked up the game were rewarded with one of the best rail shooters ever created. Rather than acting like a special agent or fighting hordes of the undead, Panzer Dragoon takes a whole new approach. Throughout the game, the player is truly riding a dragon. Fans of the genre appreciated the minor touch on a familiar format, which helped it stand out. Despite how popular the Dead Space series was and how fantastic a rail shooter Dead Space Extraction was, the game didn't get a lot of attention. During the Nintendo Wii's brief rebirth of the genre, it featured yet another superb rail shooter. Because of its unique feature, which requires dismembering the game's necromorphs in order to deal with them for good, the Dead Space series was almost made for a rail shooter game. This is a game that everyone with a Wii should play because of the tense gameplay and compelling story. While many people praised Resident Evil: The Umbrella Chronicles for its simple yet distinctive look, many more people praised Resident Evil: The Darkside Chronicles for its enhancements. The fact that the game is a sequel to one of the highest rated games of all time undoubtedly helps. The Darkside Chronicles not only fills in the gaps in the Resident Evil tale, but it also has some of the best graphics on a system that wasn't recognized for having the best looking games to begin with. The game is ideal for any Resident Evil enthusiast, with numerous upgrades over the original Umbrella Chronicles. While the Star Fox franchise has received mixed reviews for its vast range of games in recent years, many people still look to Star Fox 64 as an example of a rail shooter done properly. People all over the world still enjoy the game because it has a lot of action and a unique method to experience the tale. Not only does the game's thrilling action remain intense to this day, but the levels are also surprisingly enjoyable to explore, which may seem weird for an on-rails game. The game offered some of the best controls and voice acting available on the Nintendo 64 at the time.